What's going on, guys? This is the Full Check Podcast. I've been away for a week, and I got to get these teams done. So today we're going to do the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't have Hurricane shirt, but I got a Whalers t-shirt. It's Brass Bonanza time here on the Full Check Podcast. Or as Urinating Tree would say, it's a Brass Bonanza. I can't do the best, but it's fine. So anyways, Carolina Hurricanes, last 3 years, 2018, 2019, 46, 29, 7 with 99 points, 245 goals for, 223 against, A+22 differential. In the playoffs, they knocked off the defending champion, Washington Capitals, 4-3, beat them in overtime, if I remember correctly, in the Game 7. So big upset there. Swept the New York Islanders, and then lost to Boston 4-0. I think that was, yeah. Anyways, so I actually wrote down something else. So let's look at 2018, 2019 NHL playoffs. So pretty good year for the Carolina Hurricanes. I think that season kind of proved that they were on the come up and really put them as a favorite. Yeah, they got swept by the Bruins. Only one game was close. They were outscored. They only scored 5 goals. They were outscored 11-13, 17-5 in that series. So, bummer there, but made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. 2019-2020, 38-25, 5-8, 222 goals, 493 against, a +29 goal differential with 81 points. That season, they swept New York in the first round, in the play-in round. And I remember watching Game 1 of that series, and I don't know who it was. I can't remember who got hit or who made the hit, but there was a very big collision. It might have been Adam Fox that got hit, but don't quote me on that. I don't remember. But that hit really set the tone for the series, and that hit, I think, gave Carolina all the momentum it needed to beat the New York Rangers. 2020-2021, 36-12-8, 80 points, 79 goals for, or 179 goals for, 136 against. So the differential went up in the shortened season. They had +43. Beat Nashville 4-2, and then lost to Tampa Bay 4-1. Again, I mean, you lost to the defending Stanley Cup champs. I don't know. Sorry. If anybody really thought Carolina was going to make a deep run, I thought maybe they were the biggest. I honestly thought they were the biggest threat to Tampa Bay, but then the Islanders came along. But last year, their special teams, they had some of the top special teams in the league. Their power play percentage was 25.6%, second in the league, and their penalty kill percentage was 85.2%, and that was third in the league. If you've heard the radio show, if you watch the podcast, you know that Brendan Martin from the D3 team says your power play should be clicking at about 25% and your penalty kill should be clicking at about 75%. And Carolina was way above that in penalty kill, and they were 25.6% in the power play. So Carolina had very good special teams. Unfortunately, games are not played where you're always on the power play, and they lost, and they killed a penalty. So they weren't losing games off of power play goals from the other team. That makes me think that, and that happens. Their team leaders, Sebastian Aho, 24 goals, Aho again with 33 assists, and Aho with 57 points. Martin Necas led the team with a +25 and plus-minus. And Alex Nedlovich, I probably butchered his name, so I apologize to Alex. 15-5-3 with a .932 save percentage and then 190 goals against. And we'll get to Nedlovich in a second. So they've acquired over the season. over the offseason. Frederick Anderson signed a 2-year deal. As we come here, they signed Antti Ranta to a 2-year contract. So we'll get to their cap hits in a second, but sorry. This one is a signing that I am totally all for. Tony DeAngelo signed a 1-year contract with the Canes. I think this is a good contract for him. It's a good contract for the Canes. He needs a chance to redeem himself and why not go to Carolina where, the team is a little better off than the Rangers. They signed Poole to a 1-year contract. Levo agrees to a 1-year contract. Martinuk agrees to a 3-year contract with the Canes. Smith agrees to a 1-year contract. Lyon, 1 year. Latunov, former Shark, 1-year contract with the Canes. Derek Stepan signs for 1 year with the Canes. I'm pretty sure he was in Phoenix or Arizona last year. Jacobs agrees to a 1-year contract with Hurricanes. LaJoie, 1 year, and Hurricanes. And Kotkaniemi was signed to an offer contract or an offer sheet, and he accepted, and Montreal chose not to match that, instead trading for Christian Dvorak. And I think good signings by the Canes. Departures, I'll get to Nedlovich in a second. So Carolina lost Jonathan Bernier to the Devils. Of course, he never really played with the Devils or the Hurricanes. Bibeau went to Seattle. Hakanpää went to Dallas. Dougie Hamilton signed the massive contract with the Devils. Brock McGinn goes to Pittsburgh. Peter Mrazek signs in Toronto, so they kind of traded goalies there without trading. Paquette went to Montreal. Reimer went to the Sharks. McKeown went to the Avs, and Rempal went to the Canucks. Trades-wise, Carolina gets Dylan Wells for a future Edmonton pick. Jonathan Bernier goes to the Carolina Hurricanes, a 3rd-round draft pick in 2021 for Alex Nedlovich. 2021 second, and they trade Jake Dean to Columbus. 2 second-rounders for Nashville's. They get 2 Nashville seconds for a 2021 first-round pick. So they didn't have a first-round pick in the draft. The LA Kings get their 2021 second-round pick, and the Canes get a 3rd and a 4th in 2021. Nashville also gets a 3rd-rounder in 2021 for a 3rd-rounder and a 5th-rounder in 2021. A 3rd-rounder in 2022 to the Canes, and Chicago gets a 3rd-rounder in 2021. Kotkaniemi, a 1-year offer sheet, accepted, not matched. And I think this is big for the Hurricanes because they already have Svechnikov from that draft, and now you're adding good young talent in Jesperi Kotkaniemi. And I don't see where this hurts Carolina, obviously, until they have to re-sign both. But if we look at cap space, they have $0 in cap space. They're gonna exceed the cap space just based on injured or LTIR. So Sebastian Aho is still making $8.4 million for the next 3 years. Andrei Svechnikov obviously signs an 8-year deal or an 8-year contract worth $62 million. Jesperi Kotkaniemi is making $6.1 million, and he's a restricted free agent again next year. Jordan Staal, the captain, is making $6 million for the next 2 years. Teuvo Teravainen making $5.4 for the next 3 years. Nino Niederreiter still making $5.2. He is unrestricted next year. Jordan Staal is also unrestricted at the end of next year. Niederreiter is unrestricted right now. Vincent Trocheck is also unrestricted, but that's $9 million in cap hit that they won't be able to afford right now. Jesper Fast is making 2 for 2. He has a 2x2 right now for the rest of his contract. Martinuk signed a 3-year deal, 1.8 per year. Derek Stepan signs $1.3 million for 1 year. He's unrestricted at the end of next year. At the end of this year. Nekas is making $863,000. He's restricted. Josh Lavo $750, and Stephen Lawrence. On defense, you got Jacob Slavin, 5.3 for the next 4 years. Brady Say, 5.2 for the next 3. Jake Gardner, $4 million for the next 2. Brett Pesky, $4 million for the next 3 years. Then you got Ian Cole, who's making 2.9. Ethan Bear, who's making $2 million. He is definitely a restricted free agent. Tony D'Angelo, also a restricted free agent next year. He's making $1 million. So the defense is I would say the defense is pretty young. I don't know if the loss of Doogie Hamilton hurts them as much as people say, because you have Brady Say, you have Slavin, you have Jake Gardner, who's played pretty well. Brett Pesky is still pretty good. Ian Cole's a good veteran presence on that blue line as well. Ethan Bear is a young and up-and-coming defenseman, and Tony D'Angelo is going to be pretty good as well. I still think he's a pretty good hockey player. Realistically, the Canes have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 7 guys that can start on the blue line. But unfortunately, you only really have 6 spots on the blue line. So my guess is one of those guys is getting sent down. May end up playing in Chicago, and maybe it might be Tony D'Angelo. But a very, very good defensive core that I think that the Canes have good scoring. Obviously, you have Sebastian Aho. We look here at Sebastian Aho. You have Svechnikov, who is still developing. He's 21. Kotkaniemi's 21 years old. Jordan Staal is a very veteran presence for that team offensively, and then Teravainen and Niederreiter. I think Niederreiter and Trocheck at the end, they're probably going to play their last games as Carolina Hurricanes this year, based on what Carolina has in cap space. And now the goalie situation is a little surprising. So they had Nedlovich. I guess what the rumor is that they didn't want to pay Nedlovich, so they traded him for basically a third-round pick and Jonathan Bernier, who did not end up signing with the Hurricanes. I don't know. I think it's too early to tell if this is a good decision or not. Frederick Anderson is an NHL quality starter. He signed 2 years, $4.5 million. So it's a $9 million contract for 2 years. Antti Ranta's 4 for 2 years. Ranta has always been a good backup, especially when he lost the job to Kemper because Ranta got injured. Ranta was a good backup in Chicago, pretty decent in New York. I think that they have a better goalie situation now with Frederick Anderson and Antti Ranta than they did with Nedlovich and James Reimer and Peter Mrazek. I think Frederick Anderson's a better quality starter than Peter Mrazek. And in how many games? He played in 23 games last year. I don't know if that's a big enough sample size for him. And again, he had really good stats. Played in a relatively easy division last year too. Now the divisions are going back to normal. So now you've got Tampa Bay, you got Boston, you got Toronto, you got Montreal. Even Ottawa's on the come up. Oh no. Yeah. Nedlovich. I was thinking Canes were saying. Nedlovich is playing some of the top offenses in the league, and so maybe Carolina thought they needed a more veteran presence in net, and Frederick Anderson gives that to him. If we look at Frederick Anderson's stats last year with Toronto, in 24 games, he was 13-8, 8-3, with a .296 goals against and an .895 save percentage. Granted, he was hurt last year. I will give him the benefit of the doubt. 2019, 2020, he was 29, 13, and 7, 285 with a 909. In 2018, 2019, he was 36, 16, and 7 with a 277 and a 917 save percentage. So 4 years in Toronto, 4 years in Toronto, he had over 25 wins. 3 years, he had over 30. And then 2 years, he had over 35 wins, close to 40 wins. And here's the thing with Frederick Anderson. I know there's a lot of Toronto fans out there that blame Frederick Anderson for the failures in the playoffs. He doesn't score goals. Austin Matthews, hey, you know what? Austin Matthews is your star, and he doesn't show up. I think Frederick Anderson played the best that he could. If we look at his playoff stats, let's see what he did in the playoffs. So he had, his stats. He's only 1 year where he didn't look very good in the playoffs. So his first year with Toronto, he went 2-4 with a 268 and a 915 save percentage. His second year in Toronto, 3-3 with 376 goals against and an 896. So that was his worst year in the playoffs. The previous year, he went 3-4 with a 275 goals against and a 922 save percentage. And then last year, he went 2-3 with a 184 goals against and a 936 save percentage. Now, 2 of those years, obviously not very good stats, but Toronto has been severely lacking on the defensive side of the ice. They have all the offense, but Toronto really never had the defense. I think that maybe this year, this is probably a better fit for Frederick Anderson. And actually, let's go look at. I'm just curious to see. I don't know. So unlike football, you don't have, the defensive stats, stuff like that. So penalty, and because obviously, he's going to have a great penalty kill. They were third in the league in the they were third in the league on the penalty kill. So and then goals against, and goals against per games played. Carolina was 5th at 2.39. Goals against it as a stat itself, they were 5th. They only gave up 134 goals last year. Obviously, as I said, shots against per games played. Let's see here. They faced 28.2 shots against per games played. So I think that maybe he's walking into a better situation than he had in Toronto. I don't think that Frederick Anderson was the reason that Toronto was that bad in the playoffs. I think Frederick Anderson gets a lot of the blame when he doesn't really deserve the blame. So I think that's a good signing. And then you got Antti Raanta, who's a pretty good goalie in his own right as a backup. So, and Anderson has a modified no trade clause, so he will only accept a trade to 10 teams. That'll be interesting to keep in mind if Carolina, just somehow falls off the map. And then we get to Kotkaniemi. Now, I think that the contract that they gave him, the $6.1 million, might be a little much. But last year, he had 15 assists, and 20 points in 56 games. He was a -1. In the playoffs, he had 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points, a -5. His shot percentage was 17.9. So I think that he had 1 point in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I'm pretty sure he was a healthy scratch for game 1 of that series anyway. So I think that he's he's fallen off after his rookie season. Maybe he was hurt. Maybe the confidence kind of went away, but he's been relatively solid in the playoffs. I think this would be a good thing for Kotkaniemi. And hypothetically, let's say Buffalo is trading Jack Eichel. They're not in the same division. And There's a couple guys on the Carolina roster that don't have no trade clauses, so you could probably trade a Nino Niederreiter who doesn't have a no trade clause. Teravainen, you're probably going to keep. Niederreiter and Trocheck would be the ones that come to mind immediately. I'm not saying that they're going to get Jack Eichel, but I mean, would Jack Eichel help this team out? I think Carolina's probably one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. If we're being honest with each other with ourselves, I think Carolina's probably one of the top teams in the East. I have not gotten to anybody else in the. I gotta look at the divisions again because I don't have it up. Nope, not there. We go. So, in Carolina's division, you have Washington, you have Pittsburgh, you have the Islanders. So we have the three teams that we know are going to be relatively good and competitive. The Capitals will probably be fighting for the division title. Pittsburgh still has Crosby. Their question mark is in goaltending. The Islanders made the Final Four 2 years in a row. So we have potentially three of those three teams will be at or near the top of the division. And then you have Philadelphia, New York, and New Jersey. I think New Jersey improved the Dougie Hamilton signing, so I think New Jersey has a chance to make the playoffs in this division. The Rangers are a young team. We'll see where they go from here. But potentially in the Metropolitan Division, you have the Capitals, you have the Penguins, you have the Islanders. Not even in where I think they're going to seed, but I think this division is going to be in for a heck of a ride. I don't see Carolina winning the division, but I think Carolina could finish within the top four spots within the Metro. We could possibly get 5 teams from the Metro in the playoffs. I don't really think that, and Montreal made the playoffs, but I think the Atlantic really has Boston, Tampa Bay, and Toronto. Maybe Florida, but I think Carolina might be better than Florida. I think Carolina is better than Florida. I definitely think Carolina is better than Toronto and Boston. Toronto might be a toss-up just because of Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, but when it comes to playoffs, Carolina's in a better spot because they've recently performed better in the playoffs than Toronto. I'm not doing my division or my season preview right now, but I think that Carolina will finish in the top 4 of the Metro. I think Carolina's probably going to finish 2 or 3 in the Metro because I think I think Philly's overrated. And I think the Rangers are too young. The Devils might be too young as well. I think it'll be Washington, Pittsburgh, Carolina, and New York again fighting for the top 4 spots. But I think Carolina really has an opportunity this year to make some more noise in the playoffs. They could make a deep run. So, yeah. Very good team, I think, on paper. I'll get to my wins prediction in a second, but we'll go through draft picks right now. Didn't have a first-round pick. With their first pick in the second round, they select Scott Morrow, a defenseman from Shattuck St. Mary's High School in Minnesota. With their second pick in the second round, they select Alexei Salmi, from Assat Jr. in Finland. Their third pick in the second round, they get Ville Koivunen, a right winger from Carpet Jr. in Finland. Their fourth pick was Patrick Hammerla, goalie from Karlovy Vary in the Czech Republic, and I'm probably butchering the country names, or I'm probably butchering the names, but it's fine. Aiden Hreschuk from the USA under-18 team. Jason Blake, a right winger from Eden Prairie High School in Minnesota. Robert Orr, a right winger from Halifax in QMHJL. Justin Robidas from Val d'Or in the QMJHL. Bryce Montgomery from London in the OHL. He's a defenseman. Nikita Kwap, goalie from Krefeld in Germany. Yegor Namov from Krylia Savitov. 2 in Russia. Nikita Guslistov from Sharapovets in Russia. Joel Nystrom from Farstad in Sweden. They're getting a lot of praise for their draft class, especially, it's a good draft class, especially for a team that didn't have a first-round pick. If all the signings pan out and Frederick Anderson plays as well as we know he can, this is going to be a very good hockey club. It is probably going to be a brass bonanza in Carolina. If everything comes together, Carolina will be the Stanley Cup champions, I think. Not my prediction, but more of if this team comes together, if the chemistry is there, I think that Carolina has as good as any chance of any other team to win the Stanley Cup. They will make the playoffs. Carolina will be in the playoffs, and I would honestly say this team, I think we said Boston is their ceiling might be the Stanley Cup Finals. Carolina's ceiling is also the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm giving them a B+ for their offseason, just for the sole reason that they got Frederick Anderson and Ani Rana, and I think that will be one of the best goalie tandems in the league. So I think that the floor for this team, I think that it wins-wise, I would probably say anywhere from 40 to 50 wins for the Carolina Hurricanes. I think somewhere in between, somewhere around 45, 50 wins. I think they'll finish within the top 3 in the Metro. And I would say that it would be a disappointment if this team did not make it past the second round. I think this is a Stanley Cup contending team with the goaltending that they have. They have the goal scoring, and I think they have the defense. Honestly, I think Carolina is one of the most complete teams that I've previewed so far in terms of offense, defense, and then goaltending. I think that Frederick Anderson is a big step up from Peter Mrazek and James Reimer. Maybe not Nedlovich, but Nedlovich is younger, and Frederick Anderson has more experience in the playoffs. And again, not his fault that Toronto lost, but so I would say 45 to 50 wins. I'm not going to say it's Stanley Cup or bust for the Hurricanes, but I think that, if we go back to the last 3 years, I don't know in 2018, 2019 who really saw the Canes pulling off the upsets that they did when they beat Washington and the Islanders and then got swept by Boston, then lost to Boston again. So Carolina's been there. They just haven't gotten over the hump. And we talk about how Toronto just can't get over the first-round hump. Carolina underperforms against the top teams like Tampa Bay, like a Boston. They can't beat Boston. They can't beat Tampa Bay. I mean, heck, if it wasn't for Carolina, the Islanders would have made the conference finals 3 years in a row. So I think honestly Carolina has as good a chance as any. I don't know if there's my Stanley Cup favorite, but I would say that they're in my top 3, 4 teams to come out of the Eastern Conference and represent the East in the final. I think that, and I do think that this is a Stanley Cup contending and a Stanley Cup winning team. They could win the Stanley Cup. And when this team wins, Carolina has fans. When Carolina loses, Carolina has no fans. And even when Carolina wins, fans are few and far between. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I think that they're probably a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference. So, yeah, this has been Full Check. I got to check to see who is next on the docket for teams. Let's see. We've done Anaheim, Arizona, Boston, Buffalo, Carolina, or Calgary, Carolina, and next is the Chicago Blackhawks. So that'll be fun. I am excited to do the Chicago Blackhawks because I think that they're a team that's going to surprise a lot of people this year. So either tomorrow or Wednesday, full check 32 and 32, the Chicago Blackhawks. Follow me at full_check on Twitter. Also, some stuff coming your way on Friday. Central Michigan Division II club hockey team media day is Friday, so there will be some interviews up on the Twitter page and in the YouTube channel, probably on the team's Facebook and Twitter as well. Looking forward to that. And then Saturday is the Maroon and Gold game, where I will be calling color commentary. But Friday is media day, so there will be some interviews. Going to be an exciting time this year. I'm excited for the team. So yeah, I mean, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, and subscribe to the channel. Peace.